believe so. I think Sarah.
There you go. Okay. We are going to get started again. Pre-filled application virtual information sessions for students who are enrolling to begin field. I am Stacy Peterson from the Office of Field Education, and we have some of our field folk here, and we're going to have them. This is just me. I'm a teaching professor here, Leo Four, member of the field faculty team. That's my contact info. And can I have my other field folk say hi and check in?
Yeah, I can go. My name is Zainab Busi, and I'm also field faculty and Leo Lecturer 3 here at the School of Social Work. And I'm so happy to see so many of you here.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Rachel Masco, she, her pronouns, part of the field faculty team, and excited to see everybody.
Hi, everyone. Erin Kong, new field director. Nice to see you.
Hi, friends. My name is Dr. Robinson, and I am the assistant director for the online program. Nice to see you all.
All right, I think that's us.
Sorry, assistant director of field education for the online program.
Okay. All right, I think that's us. If I missed anyone on our team, just let me know. We'll happy to hear from you. So just giving you a little bit of information about our team. You've met some of us. This is our current compilation of our team. We have our director, our assistant director. We have our support staff, field coordinators that work with our online program. We also have our field education team of field faculty. So you see me, you see Rachel. Right now, there are 8 of us available to help you, and we will be guiding you through your field placement process. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you to hold off on your questions. There will be certain places where we'll stop and you can ask questions, but it's kind of hard to keep up with questions and hear. So we're going to take little question breaks. We're only meeting for an hour. And what I want you to know is this is not a test. We're not trying to trick you. We're not going to quiz you at the end. We just want to give you some information to get started. There's contact information available on our website, information about office hours. This information will be posted. We also wanted to share this is primarily for people who will be in a residential field placement in winter 2024. So our agenda is light and lovely. It's really the what and whys of field education. Who are the process? Who are the players, and then what are the due dates? Those are the things you need to get started.
Is there a way I can accept just the amount to cover like exactly the tuition so I don't have to worry about paying back?
You need to mute whoever's talking. We hear you. Please remember to mute. This person. Okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the due date. So as I shared, this information will be available to you. It's not a test or a quiz. You have access to this. We don't expect you to remember everything today, and there are many opportunities for you to touch bases and get more help if you need it. So, I put the why and the what, and I put Professor Trelawney. I don't know if there are any Harry Potter fans. People are often mystified by field, and I want to demystify. There's no crystal ball. There's no secrets. We are a team of people here committed and dedicated to your success. And I always tell people, I think I probably want you placed more than you want to be placed. So we come into it with that energy. We're excited to work with you. No secrets, transparency, no mystification. So what is field education? And, the field education is the application of your course content to the field. It's a course, it's a practicum educational experience that's applied. So it's great to learn theory and content in class. It's even better when you can say, what do I do with this and how do I use it? It's an opportunity for you to grow and we always say interest leads to opportunity to sort of figure out, where do you go? What do you do with all this knowledge? One of the things I like to share right away is that some people feel really like, if I don't get my first choice, I'm not going to be that when I get done. This is where you start. It's not where you end up. We're building a framework. We're helping you build your social work framework, and this is where it starts. Field is a course. There are 2 versions. We have 515, which is our foundation field, and there's information here. I'm not going to read the slides to you, but there's also 691, which is advanced field, and we have information about how we calculate numbers, how do you register, and all of that will come. The things that are important to remember, field is graded because it's a class, and so a class, it's satisfactory, marginal, or unsatisfactory, and there are guidelines in our grading material and the many things that you received yesterday about the grading process and what happens when you get graded for field if you don't receive a satisfactory grade. This is going to be for your reference. So field education is a time commitment, and it's really important that we share that with you. Typically, people are in field 16 to 24 hours each week. And so if you are coming into the program, the full field program, it's 912 hours of field over the time that you're here. That's typically 3 terms. If you're an advanced standing student, you will also, oh, I think something's going on with my slides. Advanced standing students will also complete 684 hours, and you will do that typically over 3 terms, but if you're in a school-based placement, that's often 2 terms. My next slide. So why is field important? We are committed to the practice and core values of the social work profession. And so if we have to enter our profession and our work with that energy that we want you to be our future colleagues. And so we are moving forward in our training to help and support you be successful in the field. We want you to become prepared to be a provider of services and to serve the community and the clients that you've expressed interest in working with. We also want to help you and support you as you engage in critical thinking and reflection. Self-reflection, understand the use of self and how it impacts your interaction with others. And finally, we want to help you as you develop your professional identity and your professional brand. So everything you do in field is a learning opportunity, and we really want to support that energy. Next, we wanted to share, how do we do that? How do we get you to do all those fancy things I said in the last slide? What we do is we want you to have the hands-on training, but we also want to help you apply the classroom theories and practices in real world setting. And it's really important that, we talk about real world, and I just talked to my group yesterday and I was sharing that, in the classroom, it's pretty sanitized. Everything is neat and tidy, and field is, the world is messy. So we want to help you prepare for that. We want to help you practice navigating ethical questions and challenges and working with the NASW Code of Ethics to guide and support you in that process. And we want to help you develop practice skills and behaviors that help to core competency development. So we do this by teaching you transferable skills. And that's where that thing that I said in the beginning, you might want to work in a setting that's not available. You're still going to learn skills that you can apply to that setting in the future. So we focus on transferable skills, developing your professional identity, critical thinking, self-reflection, and then again, applying coursework to practice. So, questions so far? I wanted to give people a chance. Any questions so far? Drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Okay, we're going to keep moving. So what's important for you to know is, who's your team? Oh, I'm sorry. Shima has a question.
Yes, hi, sorry. I don't know if it's something that you'll cover later, and I'm sorry if it is, but I was just wondering, especially within like self-reflection, like are there going to be any, like what are some actual opportunities for us to be engaging in self-reflection throughout field? So like, is this something that we have to kind of bring up ourselves, or is it something that's built into the curriculum?
So the short answer is we're not going to talk about it so much here. We're going to talk about it as you get into the program. There are opportunities in your classes. And then also we hold what's called connections meetings that you'll come to. And so there are going to be opportunities in the program coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Jeff?
So clearly everyone will be doing, or I don't know if it's clearly, my understanding is everyone does field over the course of multiple terms or semesters.
Yes.
And so my question is, is there a field placement that extends over however many terms or semesters one is doing, or is multiple field placements part of the program?
No, we do one placement over the course of your time here so that you can develop the breadth and the depth of skills in a setting. That's the quick answer. Other questions before I move on? Great. So I was talking about your team. So the way that we work is we do collaborate with you. And so number one player on our team is you. We want you to have a relationship with us. We want you to let us support you and be in charge of your learning as you navigate this process. You also have us, the field faculty, where we work here at the university. We work in conjunction with your agencies. We partner with them to support you. You will have a field instructor at your site. That's typically a person with an LMSW who's able to provide supervision. Sometimes you might work with what we call a task supervisor. We see this a lot in our macro placements where you might be working with one of our local politicians or a CEO or CFO, and you will still get supplemental LMSW supervision from a licensed social worker, which is part of our accreditation standards. That's your team. Some of the questions that we get, a lot of people want to know, where am I going to be placed at? So that depends on you. We have many local placements, but we also extend. We have an online program. This is our residential program. So we're looking mostly at Northern Ohio, Michigan, Ann Arbor, Detroit, and we have our little map there. Most students travel 30 to 60 miles each way for field. It's your responsibility to arrange your transportation. And if you don't have a car, we can help you. We do also work with our local transportation system, but it's not like a big metro city where you take a train. We don't have a subway. So there's a little bit of adjusting to that, but we will work with you and support you to meet your needs. So we're going to just talk a little bit about the process of getting placed. The field application opens on August 24th. That means you can go to our website. You'll be able to check in and see it. And it's due to the field office on September 22nd. Those dates are important. What will happen is we will hold, so we want you to know that there's an incoming field student page that goes through every step of the way on how to complete your field application. We hold office hours weekly, and I have the schedule in here, and they're also posted on our website. Those are virtual where you can check in, and there'll be some subset of us available to answer questions as they arise. You will, we're going to talk a little bit about the application materials, our resume and goal statement. You'll interview for a placement, and then we also offer guidance and support and facilitation. And so it's important for you to know you're not doing this alone, that you have people who care about you and support you and want you to be successful. So we do want to say that there are some limitations to the process. So those can be agency-based or community-based. Marietta, I will ask for questions in just a second. If you hold off for just a minute, I'll call you first. Some of the limitations might be field instructor or agency available. So you might want to be at a place that's currently not taking students, or a place that had students in the past and something changed. Just recently, one of my favorite field instructors who was going to take a student in the fall told me that their husband got a job in Tennessee. And I was like, let him go, stay with me, I need you. But she's leaving. It's availability. Some agencies have a training cycle. So if you're in a particular academic curriculum track, you're not eligible or available to attend their training. And so that placement wouldn't be available to you. You know, social work is a profession of service. And so we often encounter funding and changes. And sometimes an agency might have had a previous experience with a student and they might want to take a break. All those things can happen, among other things. Some of the limitations for students, you might really want to be at a field site that their program schedule doesn't align with your learning, your course schedule or your life schedule or your work schedule. And so we want you to know that that's a possibility. You might not be available. We have some sites that have special day requirements and some students find that they're not available. Your interests will evolve as you learn and grow in the program. So some of the things that you thought you might be interested in can change over time. Sometimes when an agency reviews your material, they might want more experience related to the work that they do. And the other thing that impacts whether or not you're accepted, a limitation could be your professional presentation. We will talk more about that. Questions so far, and I think Marietta had a question.
Yeah, is that timeline for winter placements?
Yes, that's what we're talking about, winter
Okay,
placement.
great, thank you.
Other questions so far?
Yes, I have a question if that's okay.
Yes.
So I have a colleague who's also in the online MSW program at the university, but he's my coworker at work.
Mhm.
And he's created his own field placement like through our organization. And I was wondering if that's like a possibility for in-person students as well.
If you're talking about employment-based placements, we do have a process for that, and there are directions on our website, but you can also contact our office directly for information.
Okay, thank you.
Alyssa?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm looking at hands, so if you raise your hand, I'll just call them as they show up on my screen. Alyssa?
Hi, I was wondering, for the August 24 date, is it, or if you turn your application between August 24 and like September 22, is it like rolling acceptance, or is it something that it's not looked at until September 22, or is it like pertinent that if we want what we want, or like really are concerned about schedule and things, that we should immediately August 24 be turning that in?
That's a great question. Because we have to be equitable and fair, the due date is the 24th. So if you turn it in early, we will not place you before the due date to give other people a chance to meet the requirement that we set, the deadline. So we won't place you before the deadline. After the 22nd of September, we start reviewing the material that we have, and there are people who turn their material in late, but the later you are, the less chances you have available. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ashley and then Kareem.
Hey, thanks. I had the same question and did just want to clarify because you were saying so the later you wait, the less chance, but that's only after the 22nd, right? Not
Yes, after the
so it's
deadline.
just open so we can review all of the availability and then, have some time. Okay.
Yes. And
Thank
then-
you.
Yeah, Kareem.
I had a question. So say you're at a field placement and they decide to keep you over the summer, on a more intern-based capacity, would that time and during the summer count towards your field placement hours, or would those only work throughout the school year?
So it depends on your curriculum track, but in short, you can only earn field credits for the terms that you're registered for. So if you're a 20-month student and take a summer break and you decide to stay at your placement, they can keep you as a volunteer, but you can't really do a placement because you're not covered by liability insurance. If you want to change your curriculum track, there's a pathway to do so.
Okay, thank you.
And Alex.
Yeah, you might have said this before, but I have not been paying the best attention. I'm sorry. Is there a like a list of field placements that are available, or is that in the application process, or?
It's in the application. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. So that's a good question.
Cool.
And then Andrew, and then I'm going to move on after you, Andrew.
Okay, hi. I first apologize for not being muted when I joined the meeting a few minutes ago. So just to clarify about if you're enrolled in the 16-month program, so your second placement would be during the summertime and they do decide to keep you, that does not count as the advanced
No,
field
I
education.
think, no, if you're a 16-month student, we have one placement. You typically have one placement the whole time you're here.
Okay.
So you're not going to switch placements.
Okay, thank you.
Alyssa, did you have another question? Your hand's still up?
Sorry, did not. Thank you for letting me know.
No worries. We're going to move on and we will take more questions. So this next slide shows you our office hours for winter 2024 field placement applicants. So there's a Zoom link here. It's also on our Google website for applying for field. You can pop in at any of these times to have your questions answered. They're Eastern Standard Times, but you can see we offer a number of ways for you to connect with us and meet with us. And sometimes in those meetings, whoever is there, we might say, you really have a special question that Stacy can answer, or Rachel can answer, or Rosalva can answer, and we're going to help you get in touch with the right person to do that. But we will hold these open office hours for you, and you can pop in and get your questions answered there as well. Okay. All right, next slide. You will submit your field application. So in order to do so, you must finalize your pathway, because when you go into our application, it will show you the slots that are available based on your pathway. So if you're an interpersonal practice student, those are the placements that will pop up. If you're a leadership or community change student, placements that match your pathway will show available. You'll also enter some program attributes that you're interested to that might help you narrow it down. But once you log in to the application and select your pathway, it will show you the placements that are available to you. The one thing I remind students of, this is a dynamic process. So we are opening new agencies often. And so one of the things I recommend is that you submit your application closer to the due date, because we may have onboarded some new agencies that weren't available. If you do it on August 24th, we might have 2 or 3 new agencies come in that you won't know about. So closer to the due date, because we don't review them until the application deadline. You're going to identify some settings you want to work in: a school, a hospital, a community agency. You're going to talk about some skills you want to learn: assessment, clinical, grant writing. You're going to fill out the application, and then you're going to upload your resume and goal statement. And I have another slide that talks a little bit about that, but you're going to submit an application. A couple of tips for you. We do have guidelines on writing your goal statement, and it should be 1 to 2 pages. We have a link here. We also have our Office of Career Services that has, they will review your application. If you get it to them if you get it to them in time, they will help you. The same as your resume. We have a resume requirement. You'll submit that resume and goal statement. The Office of Career Services has great materials, and they know what we're looking for. Our agencies are looking for these documents. You must, if you want them to review your material, you have to get them in 2 weeks prior to the due date. Our agencies have worked with us for a while, so it's really important that you kind of follow the guidelines. They really notice when you're not sticking with the guidelines, and that sort of stands out. Alex, you had a question?
Yeah, so I'm just coming out of the tech industry, and for resume writing, we didn't make it look very pretty, but we made it to like go through all the AI gates. I was wondering, is that something that we need to pay attention to here, or is a more traditional resume better?
We typically go for a more traditional resume, but you can definitely make an appointment with the Office of Career Services for more guidance and feedback. Okay. Other questions about resume, goal statement, guidelines so far? Okay. We're going to go on and talk what happens after you submit your application. What happens is there's 8 of us in the field office. We each manage a cohort of agencies. That means we work with them really well. Someone is not on mute. Could you please check and make sure you're on mute? So once you select your top 3 choices, you will go to the field person that works primarily with your top choice. So for example, if you said, I want to go to Ann Arbor Public Schools, you would come to me. That you have 2 other choices. If Ann Arbor is available, I'll be your assigned field faculty, and you'll get an email about who you're landing with. We work as a team. So I think it's really important to know that if your first choice isn't available, I will be working with the person who manages your next choice, and we meet weekly to make sure that we're giving you the best cross coverage and opportunity of placements. Your application so once you land with someone, you get reviewed by your field faculty. I'll review your resume and goal statement. Say you pick an agency that I know looks for certain things. If that's not there, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to say, oh, your first choice. We want your resumes and goal statements to be more general, not to say, I only want to go to Ann Arbor schools and no other school will do. We're going to look at it and I'm going to give you advice and help if you need it. If your resume matches your first choice, I'm going to send that to the agency and you'll be notified via email. Your materials have been reviewed. She sent you to Ann Arbor schools. They're going to look at it and say, yes, we want to interview the student, or we're going to say yes. I'm going to let you know, and I'll send you an email that says, reach out to this person to arrange an interview. You're going to interview. It's going to be fabulous. You're going to get accepted. You both are going to say, yes, we accept. And then your placement will be finalized. If that doesn't quite happen, if you go on the interview, because we remind you, not only are they interviewing you, you're interviewing them. You might find that your work and your idea of what you want to do is not going to be fulfilled there. We're going to go on to your next spot. We do get a lot of questions about, can I have multiple interviews? We've found that system is not equitable or fair, and our agencies have said, I don't want to interview 6 people for one spot when they might not even come to me. So we have a policy where you interview at one agency at a time. Once if you don't accept it, you can turn it down. We'll go to the next spot on your list, but we only do one interview at a time to be equitable, fair, and then considerate of time. And that goes both ways. I might send Andrew to a site and he gets the spot. And then I'm like, well, Alex is much stronger. Let me send Alex. And then that's not fair when you've already done your part. So it was your first choice. And so we do follow that. Additionally, the agencies have said, we have about 700 students in field and we want to make sure that we're using all our time wisely. Rachel?
So I'm trying to catch up on the questions in the chat and I want to clarify something. So when you get into the application, you're going to indicate those 3 choices. There is no guarantee that you'll get any one of those 3 choices because it is a dynamic process. So just to be clear, your first choice your application will get sent to the field faculty member and they will review it first. It does not go to the agency directly. It comes to us first to make sure that it's clean. It says the things it needs to say. What you have in it actually aligns with what the field agency may be interested in seeing while still following the template that we ask you to follow. Do not tailor any resume or your goal statement to a particular field site because you will end up having to redo it if you don't land in that particular site, or the field faculty may also just contact you. I just had a student that I'm placing for fall who wrote everything they wanted to know or talked about how they wanted to work with veterans. And that's great, except for they weren't going to a place that was exclusively serving veterans. So you don't want to turn off a field placement site by saying something that maybe leads them to believe that you're interested in something other than what the placement offers. So what we ask is that you follow the guidelines on the application. We've set it up that way to give you the best chance to get the placements that you're interested in. But, and so I see somebody that says, well, I'm assuming it's like a job and we'll tailor it to the job. No, we want you to just give a nice broad review of the things that you're interested in or your experiences that you've had. And then you'll talk about what you want to learn about in your goal statement. The only thing that goes to the field placement site is a resume and your goal statement. But in the application, we're going to ask you things like, what is most important to you? Is it a schedule? Is it a stipend? Is it the kind of work that you'd like to do? Is it location because you don't have a car? And we're going to ask you to articulate that to us. That information does not go to the placement site. That's really for the field faculty team to better understand and make sure that the placements that you've selected meet your interests. And you'll never be an expert on the placing process. So you're going to have to trust us. We are experts. We place thousands of students every year, literally thousands. And our job is to know as much as we can about the organization so that when you come to us with questions, we can answer them But also that's part of what happens in the interview process. You'll learn more about the agency in the interview process. And remember also, and I'll stop after this, is that these are social workers generally that you're interviewing with. They too have gone through this process and they expect you to come in with an enthusiasm for learning. You're not there as an employee. Well, some of you might be. But in general, even people who have employment-based field placements are there in their field time as students. You are to be learning, right? So you don't have to come in and like in a job and know everything because they already know you don't know, right? So put your student learner hat on and think about this experience as, how do I communicate with an organization, or how do I communicate with the field team about what I'd really like to learn and understand? And then trust us that we're going to try to do our best to connect you with the site that we think will best meet those interests and expectations, along with what goes in your pathway. If we think that something is amiss, like sometimes we'll see students who say, you know, I want to work with in the schools, but I can only do nights and weekends. Well, children aren't in schools on the nights and weekends. So we'll contact you either via email or phone and say, hey, there's a disconnect here. Let's help you figure out what you're really trying to get to, or what skills you need to learn so that you can work in the schools, even if your field placement isn't going to be in the schools. So I just wanted to clarify that because I saw some confusion in the chat.
Thank you, Rachel. I also see that people are asking, yes, the recording will be posted and you will do one resume and goal statement. That's why we talked about it being general, and we send that same material out. Sarah?
Hey, I have two questions. The first question is, do international students have like another application, or it's the same for all students? And the second question is, where can we find the list of the agencies or the field placement to read about them from now? Thank you.
So, international student, you'll do one application. Everyone does that. Once you go into using your Michigan unique name, once you log into the system, that's when the list becomes available. It's a locked list. Rachel.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, people are asking about trying to find it. So we're still placing the students who are landing for fall. And so we have to go back into the database and update it, right? So we're telling you that the database will be available to you on Monday. We'll have our most accurate at the moment understanding of what placements are going to be available. And you'll be able to go in there and see it. We literally will hold your hand. If you just read the website, it's going to take you through step by step by step by step. And you will have an opportunity to just peruse through the database and come back and look at it again. And come in and out. But the reality is that even with our best information on Monday, there could be changes on Tuesday. Somebody gets pregnant, somebody gets a promotion, somebody decides to leave their job, right? So just know that we do our best to keep the database updated as much as possible. And it really is just one tool in this process, right? It's not the end all be all tool for the process.
Ariana?
Hi, yes, thank you. I have a question regarding the due date. I opened the link that Rachel sent through the chat, and it says that the due date is September 21, but here it was said that it's September 22. So I'd like to know like if it's Thursday or Friday.
I think, Stacey, I think we agreed that it would be due on the 21st, and then we would start reviewing on the 22nd. So we want them to turn it in on the 21st.
Okay.
Is that what you?
Yes. Yes, that was my question.
Yeah, I think in the last orientation, they used the due date of the 22nd. So for the international students, so that's what's in the notes. So I think we'll review. I think the 22nd has to be the due date now because it's out.
Okay.
Yijin?
Oh, yes. So I'm in the pathway where like I have like the program evaluation applied research one, and I'm wondering how would that be, how would my replacement look like if I want to do researchers with like one of our faculty's member or something?
When you log into the application and put your pathway, the placements that are available to you on that pathway will come up and it should show those projects. You will have one placement.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Great questions, you all.
There are
Um,
also people on the call who already are placed. If you're already placed, you don't need to be on this call. This is all about students who are getting placed in the fall for a winter start.
Ariana and Jake.
Yes, another question came up. Thank you for answering the previous one.
Absolutely.
My question is regarding special programs and the pathway. I'm in a special program, the New Leaders in African-Centered Social Work, and I'm in the community change pathway. And I was under the understanding that my field placement should be aligned with both the special program and the pathway. Is that correct?
Yes, and when your materials come in, it shows us that on our view, and we will work with you to make sure that that happens.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Jake?
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Will the application save our progress, or does it have to be finished in one time, I guess?
You should be able to save and come back. That's what they told us.
Thank you.
Safa?
My question was, will the guidelines for the statement and the resume, that's available now, or is that only going to be available after the 24th?
Rachel, do you want to answer this one?
I think it's gonna be available after when the application opens.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, we're
It
gonna
really
move on.
is, it's like two questions. It's like, why did you choose the pathway? What are you interested in learning? And where have you been successful in other educational environments? That's the gist of it. 3 main questions.
All right, we're gonna keep it moving. These are great questions. So we already said this, the interview process is one agency at a time. It can be in person, could be virtual, could be a combination, maybe an individual or a group interview. So we have interview resources in this website that we've been telling you about, and that information is there. We put this here. What happens if I do an interview and I'm not accepted or I don't get an interview? So the first thing is to not panic. You know, we've shared that we are here to support you and guide you through this process, that we have resources available. We will talk to you, we will get feedback. Your field faculty can discuss the situation or circumstances that may have impacted that experience. We might recommend that you rework your goal statement or improve your interview skills. We have resources here to help you with that. You may also need to reflect where you are in your skill development. So one of the things that I've seen is sometimes students come in and they don't have a lot of skills or experience, and they want a real high demand competitive placement that has a high skill set requirement that you might not match there. And I always tell people it's not about us not giving you what you want. We can't give you what's not available. We can refer you and you can get turned down, but it's not about someone keeping something from you. You might not be ready to do that work right now. That doesn't mean you won't be able to do that work later on in your career. So if you get turned down, we'll help you and give you some feedback and give you some information to go forward. So can
I say one more thing I forgot to say? The other thing is your number 2 on your selection for your placements was likely somebody else's number 1. So if you go through your first interview and you're not selected because, let's just say there were 4 students who applied to one placement that only had 1 slot, and we send all 4 applications over so that the field instructors can review it, they might interview all 4, they might interview 2. But if you are not selected, we will go back to your number 2 selection, but that could have been somebody's number 1, right? So at that point, that's when you're using the knowledge and expertise of the field team. We have weekly placing meetings where we bring individual students who are still looking to be placed to talk to the team and come up with ideas and generate them. And we're doing that all week long when we're deep in the placing process, not just at our team meeting. So I just want you to be prepared. Sometimes that's when students get fussed up, is when they've taken all this time to select these 3 placements, and then they interview at the first, they don't get it. but then they want to go to number 2 and number 2 has already been filled. And maybe even number 3 has already been filled. The choices are really about helping the field faculty understand where your interests are. What was interesting to you about this placement versus this placement, or your level of understanding. Sometimes I'll see somebody who says, I want to do therapy, but then they choose all hospital-based placement. Well, in general, in the hospital, they're not really doing therapy. There are places that have more of a mental health or clinical, I'll say mental health focus. But in general, if you are in an inpatient setting in the hospital, they're not doing traditional 45-minute sessions. So that shows me that you have a misunderstanding about what medical social work might look like. And if you really want to do therapy, I might be redirecting you to another kind of placement that would give you that experience. So that's where our knowledge and expertise comes and is valuable to you, because there's no way that you would all know that within the first month of being in a program. And we know that. That's why we are here to help.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so we want to talk about everything wonderful has happened. You got your placement, and now we want you to prepare to start. Once you've confirmed your site, your field placement, you want to communicate with your field instructor, the person at the agency, to ask questions about, when do I start? Are there requirements? Some agencies ask for background checks. Some sites do drug screenings. You might have to onboard through their HR department and fill out forms to get badges and access to buildings. If you're an international student, you need to get your CPT form done. You want to establish your schedule with your field instructor. You want to, since field is a class, we have a class site in Canvas. We will have the Canvas site posted at the beginning of the term. There will be a syllabus with due dates and information about going forward in the process. And so once you're prepared to start, you got to do the next step. Additionally, there are some sites that ask for letters of recommendation. We try to let you know we can't use your letter of recommendation that you used to get into the program. Those letters were specifically for that purpose, so we can't take it and apply it to something else. But if you, I would say, if you want to do certain work, like say you wanted to work in a school, they typically do want a letter of recommendation. So start thinking about, if you need a letter of recommendation or a recommender, who would that person be? Give them a heads up. That's going to be important. Other important information and resources for you. We have placements in integrated health and hospital placements. There's a course required for that placement. So we want you to know that it's 714, and say you want to be placed at Michigan Medicine, you need to take this class. It's a team-based clinical decision-making. It happens every winter. And so that's a requirement to be placed there. Other sites might have particular requirements, and if we know them, we're going to let you know. If you have a disability, it's important to connect with our Office of Disabilities, Service for Students with Disabilities. And I like to let people know that a lot of times people come, if you've had support from that type of office before, some people come to graduate school and say, I'm not going to call them, I'm pretty good, I'm going to try this without getting help. And what we've seen, someone might start the program in, say, September and have some challenges in the field. And then they say, the agency might say, well, we're not going to be able to keep you. And then in November, the student might say, well, I have a disability. If you do have a disability, it's important to communicate early and often because it aids in your success. And so if that's the kind of help and support that you had before, we're happy to help and support you continue on so you can be successful. We have resources for international students, undocumented students, and there's the information about the letters of recommendation. And so that's the big stuff we wanted you to know. Additionally, there's support available from our office. We have our office hours. This is our office email, our office phone number, our office website, our link with the application will be going live soon or updated. The big takeaway we want you to know is that we're here to support you. I know you're sick of me saying support, 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 but it really is a collaborative process. It really is an opportunity for you to become the colleague that I'm going to work with. So I want you to be good and strong, and I'm really vested in that. Other things to know, Field is a class. You need to register for Field every semester. It's listed under independent study, and to graduate, we talked a little bit about this. If you are anything but an advanced student, standing student, and maybe a transfer, you will do 14 credits of Field. And so advanced standing students typically do 12. It's your responsibility to keep up with your hours. And as you get ready to get started, that's another question to ask at your onboarding. How do you want me to keep track of my hours? That's something you want to keep up with. So we talk about communication. This is my direct contact info, and we're going to stay on for Q&A. But I always tell people, no ghosting. Don't ghost us. We're here to help you and support you. So make sure that you take advantage of our, Rachel said, our work wisdom, our desire to help you and see you successful. And I think now we just wanted to give you a lot of time for questions at the end. That's just a little bit of what you need to know. You will get this info again. Nothing is set in stone. No quizzes, no tests, no mystery, no crystal ball. Okay. I see a lot of questions in the chat.
Trying to answer them as quickly as I can.
Well, we can raise our hand. There's 10 minutes at the end for questions. So, and some people, you want to just, if you have a question, now's the time. It's all you. No rushing. It's all questions. Michaela.
So my question is kind of related to Field, but also a little bit out. So say we didn't get our first choice for Field placement, and then so I want to go into grief counseling, but I am interested in kind of seeing what inpatient hospice care looks like. So say I did my Field placement in a therapy capacity. Are there opportunities for the staff within the social work office to help facilitate potential shadowing of a different field outside of field work, just as a voluntary opportunity?
Typically, no. And the reason being is every agency has guidelines and requirements and liability and privacy. So they don't typically do that. What I will say to you, and we usually have a little drawing that we make that, your career is going to be about 40 years. What we're helping you do is build the framework to get started. You're going to go out and do things that take you in different directions, and there will be opportunities for you to do those, to gain skills in everywhere you want to go. Social work is a lifelong learning program. Once you get your license, you will have to get 45 continuing education units every 3 years. And so maybe you won't get that here, this particular area of interest, but there's nothing that says you can't get it once you leave here. And you can also volunteer on your own when you have more time. It is a big time commitment to be here with the classes and the field commitment, but so in short, no.
Can I say one quick thing about two things? The organizations who require background checks are usually those who are working with vulnerable populations. And so there are agencies, one, that don't require background checks, or two, are okay with handling people who have blips on their record, depending on what they are and depending on what the work is. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Not every placement will respect a drug test or a background check. And the other thing is, for people who are interested in hospital-based placements, most hospital-based placements require you to be in field for 24 hours a week, all 3 terms. So in general, most of your field schedule planning, your planning worksheets will indicate that you will be in 515 in winter term, and usually that would require you to be there 2 days a week or 16 hours. But if you want to go to a place like Michigan Medicine or St. Joe's or Henry Ford, they often will require you to take additional field credits. You're going to spend more time in field. You'll be there 24 hours a week or 3 days. And you will take additional field credits, and those will be counted towards your elective credits. So, and that's really just the first term, because in your second and third terms of field, if you are in the program full time, you'll be taking 6 credits or doing 24 hours per term anyway. It's that first term that sometimes throws students. So if you're planning to apply to a hospital-based placement, just know that first term, you're likely going to be expected to be in field for 24 hours, not just 16.
Thank you. Shima.
Yeah, hi. So I know in some school-based placements, there's not really opportunities to do field like over the summer, but I was wondering for some non-school-based field placements, do a lot of them have the expectation that you would kind of continue through the summer, or is it really by preference / if you're 60-month or 20-month?
It's by your curriculum schedule. So if you're a 16-month student, you have a year-long placement from January to December, and you work over the summer. If you're a 20-month student, your first semester is typically September to April. You have the summer off. You go back to the same placement from September to April, and you complete your field placement. School placements typically run from September to June. So if you are a 20-month student placed in a school, you'll go September to June, summer off, come back, and then finish up in your next, when you return in the fall, from September to June. If you're advanced standing students, you typically go September to August. Unless you're in a school placement, you go September to June and you change your schedule. So when you all talk about staying over the summer, it depends on your curriculum track. That's the short answer. Does that answer your question, Shima?
Yes, a little bit. Sorry, I have one more follow-up question, if that's okay. Do you find that if you are like a 20-month student, are there placements that would prefer like 16-month students, for example, people who can stay for like the entire time?
Yeah, if you're looking for a clinical placement, if you're looking for a hospital placement, they typically prefer 16-month students because the whole 912 hours of your time here, they will get to train you and then get to see you in action and guide and direct you. It's also, if you're in a clinical placement, it's better for the practice and the clients that you serve to be there for a continuous amount.
Okay, thank you so much.
Michelle?
Thank you, Stacy and Rachel, for this and answering all of our questions. So my question is, you may have said it, so please forgive me. I'm just trying to be clear. I'm in the 60-month program, part-time. So should I even be in this session or, okay, I should. And so the application process that you mentioned, the window, that would apply to me?
It depends on when you started the program, Michelle.
I'm starting Monday.
Okay.
The fall.
Yeah, so usually I think the part-time students start their field placement 2 terms in.
Okay.
So, and maybe that's fall. I'd have to look, but you're welcome to call us and double check it.
Okay, I can do that.
Usually part-time students don't start right away because we want you to get a little bit of coursework under your belt before you launch in.
Yeah, I thought it was like a year and then, but
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. That's
Okay.
exactly what I would expect, is that you would be applying you'd be applying over the summer for a fall start.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Nicholas.
Hello, yes. My question was related, oh my gosh, it just went out of my head.
No worries.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. I definitely heard that you're here to support us. And I'm just wondering, during these office hours that you're offering, if we have like a good idea of what our strengths are coming in, but we're not quite sure maybe what the best placement to apply for would be, could we ask you that in office hours and ask what you think a good site would be based off of both our strengths now and what we're hoping to develop over the course of placement? Like, can we ask for guidance as to like what? So it's not very clearly asked. Like what the best placement would be for us?
I would recommend that you come in and have a one-on-one because people pop in and out of office hours. We work as a team, and what I like to do is say, I have this student, these are their interests. What do other people have, or what do you all think? And then I might get a list from my colleagues that I share with you again. That's what I thought. What do you think, Rachel?
Well, I was just gonna say, so when you get to see the database, you know, we have literally hundreds of organizations that we work with. So when you go into the database, you're gonna say, I'm 16-month IP, and then it's gonna give you some settings. I like hospitals, or I wanna be in mental health, or I'm a CO student and I wanna be in a community-based agency, and it will sort that for you. And then every opening will also have a little description that will describe, and this is all provided to us from the organization. So sometimes those descriptions give a general overview, but they're not either up to date or they are not comprehensive, right? So, but the idea, again, the idea is that you're thinking more generally and holistically, right? So, and you're relying on us and our expertise to help you. So you'll be able to look through the database and read a little bit about the different organizations. And you can then go and look online on their website. We usually have their website link right there too, so you can take a peek at that. I would recommend before coming to us, do some of your own research and look at, because otherwise we won't be able to be as productive in our meeting on how to help guide you. But go ahead and take a peek, look at what you think, and then you could bring some ideas like, well, I was interested in this, I was interested in that. I think that would help you feel more confident and also understand all the different kinds of placements that are available. Well, yesterday we had pre-field orientation for those students who are starting in the fall, and already they're starting to see like, oh, every placement is so different and unique, right? I might have one placement that, let's say a student has placed someplace where they want to do mental health work, and the philosophy of the field instructor, who by the way is a volunteer social worker, right, is that you won't take clients in your first term. Your first term will just be observing and shadowing and understanding the context of the organization and the community that you're serving. I have other placements that, and week 2, they're like, okay, start looking through available clients. I want you to pick some and we're going to set up those first appointments, right? So there's a wide range of how individual organizations even execute the field education process. So that's why we ask you, like, in what environments do you thrive? If you like kind of slow pace, low key environments, I would not recommend the hospital, right? It's fast.
Or a school.
Right, or a school. There's all kinds of action happening all the time, right? You have to be able to pivot on a dime. If you love that, then those would be great environments for you, right? The goal is to, again, help expose you to social work and allow you to start practicing the social work competencies in a real live setting. Our job is to help you learn how to translate, once you've been there for a while, the skills that you're developing into other practice areas, because often most of you are not going to get hired in your field placement, right? You're going to have to be able to talk about how this opportunity helps you to develop the skills that are appropriate for a social worker. The other thing I'll say, and I know we're running out of time, is that this, well, I actually won't. I'm going to let students ask questions. I'll tell you that story later. And
okay. Before we go on and answer the next questions, I do want to say something super important. A lot of you will have questions and you will go to your friends, and your friends who mean really well do not have the information that we have. If you have a question about this process, please don't talk to your friends. Please come to the field office. I have so many people who get into trouble or realize they didn't do what they were supposed to do because they said, my friend said, your friend could have a totally different situation. And they mean well, but they don't know as much as we know about what you need to do to graduate. This is a place where I'll say, go to the source, go to the expert knowledge, and that's going to be us. There was one question I want to address that I saw it was about mini placements. We don't offer mini placements, MINI placements, because it's not what the agencies want. They don't have enough time to train you if you don't get the breadth and the depth of your learning. And so that's not an option. Andrew, so it's 1:30. If you don't wish to stay, you're welcome to leave. You can come to office hours and we stay on for questions. So I'm happy to stay on, but if you need to leave, absolutely feel free to do so. Andrew.
Hi, thank you. So my question would be specifically related to the 16-month program.
Mm-hmm.
So in the spring summer term, you have 6 credits worth of elective courses. Is it possible to ask to take on larger hours in the field placement to fulfill some of those elective courses for that? Like, could you take on an extra day? And okay.
Yes, but there's a process, so you can't just randomly add it. We have a process. You can take up to 6 credits of elective field, but you have to do what's called an out of sequence petition to do so. But your field faculty will guide you through that. It's absolutely possible. Megan? Thanks, Andrew.
My question is regarding, I'm also on the 16-month track, but I'm also intending to apply to a dual degree program. And I was just wondering if there's anything I should know specifically about that moving forward.
Just that you need to communicate early and often, and once you figure out what's happening, you need to let us know so we can help you, because it's something to navigate. Not impossible, just a little tricky, and we know
It is.
about that.
It's tricky, and yeah, what we found is that our school tends to be pretty flexible and other schools tend not to be flexible. But one thing is for certain, the field credits have to be executed consecutively, right? You can't come into a field placement and then leave and then come back in and then leave because your coursework doesn't allow it. So that's really the work of figuring out with the technical advisors and your advisors in whatever other program to figure out what the schedule will be so that the field office will know when you're going to be in field.
Okay, thank you so much.
Alina?
Hi, I was wondering, how can I set up a one-on-one appointment with your office? I see the drop-in hours, but I don't know how to make my own appointment.
So on this slide, we have our office number, and you can you can email our office and someone will help you make an appointment. Say, I want to make an appointment with the field faculty. But I will tell you that because we're still closing out the fall students, we probably won't meet with you for at least 2 weeks.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, wait till it's open so you can look at it, so you can come to us prepared.
Keely?
Yeah, it's Keely. I just had a question pertaining to 16-month students for like global field placements. My secondary pathway is global social work. And I was wondering kind of how that works for 16-month students. Is it like you are placed obviously here in the States in the winter, and then possibly you take an abroad placement and then you come back to the same field placement? Like, how does that work?
So you're a global pathway student starting field in the fall?
Sorry, no, the winter.
I think could you take down the office number and give us a call? Because I think you're supposed to be in field in the fall. Is that correct, Rachel? Fall and
I don't
winter,
have
summer
this-
abroad?
That's what I thought, but I think we probably need to look. And the best thing, Keely, to do is to give us a call and we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have phrased that incorrectly. I'm sorry if I'll call. Don't worry.
Yeah, just call and we can look you up and give you the best accurate information. Are there other questions? Tanya?
So I'm just starting as a part-time fast track student.
Master track?
Master track, yeah. So I was just wondering, is October then the best time to like start getting my feet wet and then to have an appointment and with the office one-on-one?
I think you can give us a call because we would have to look up where you are in the master track and when you finish. So if you reach out, are you finished with the first part or you're just starting everything?
No, I'm finished with it all, and I just got accepted to start in person this fall. So
and when would you just give us a call? We'll figure it out.
I mean,
have
it
a
looks like it'll be
database.
next year, but I just wanted to see about like start researching it because I'm kind of clueless and I need to learn to focus and narrow my interests.
Sure.
No,
So
there's
yeah,
like
give us a call and make an appointment. And we would be happy to sit down and talk with you.
okay, thank
Zoom
you.
or in person. Thank you. Megan.
Yeah, sorry, another question. I know it's been asked, but I'm still a little unclear about the answer regarding students who might have multiple pathways. So for context, I guess my primary pathway is policy and political.
And that's what your placement has to be in. It has to be in
Okay,
your primary
understood.
pathway. Mhm.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, that was a great question. I don't think anyone's asked that yet aloud. Other questions? Well,
Can I have a follow-up on that, actually?
sure.
Could you just tell me like a little bit about what a macro placement looks like? Like what are some examples of macro placements that you've had students do? Like anything notable or?
It's
This is also- oh, sorry, Stacy. This
Go
is
ahead,
also
Rachel.
on our website that is public facing. So you can go to every single pathway and then see the kind of roles and field placements that might be under that. And then when the application opens, you'll also be able to search. It's not going to limit you. So if you are an IP student now, but are thinking about moving to macro, you could say, I'm a macro student and search the macro or they're not organized in macro. They're organized under management, leadership, policy, community organizing. Right. So you can look at those as well. You'll be able to see that. There's there's more macro placements than there are anything else because there's so few of you. And there's so many opportunities in macro social work, especially in our state, because we also license macro social workers.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback off of her question? So just to be clear, so I'm also dual pathways on macro management and leadership. So I can search under my second pathway and not so if my primary is IP mental health, I can search under my second dual pathway of the macro.
Let me be clear. Your primary pathway, your placement has to be in your primary pathway. You can't, the system won't prevent you from looking at management and leadership pathways. But if you send your application with your number one choice as a management and leadership choice, we will call you or contact you and say, this is not going to work for you. The secondary pathways, all the pathways are really designed to help you understand and put coursework together. When you leave our program, you are an MSW. Nobody outside of the School of Social Work cares what your pathway is. It really doesn't matter whether you have a primary or a secondary. Anybody could invest their like elective credits or take extra classes and call themselves a minor or a secondary pathway. It's just a way for you to think about it. It doesn't really matter out in the actual world. So all we care about is that your primary pathway is supported by your field placement, because the assignments that you're going to be doing in your field courses, in your field placement with your field faculty and your field instructors are going to be aligned with your pathway. The language is written to be aligned with your pathway. So that's why they have to be the same. But the secondary pathway in some ways is irrelevant in the placing process. We don't actually care. Are there placements that have multiple opportunities that might kind of veer in and out? Yes. In fact, most social workers are not doing exclusively IP work or exclusively management and leadership work or exclusively policy work. It's not really how social work practice works. The way that it's designed that way is to help you, the student, to understand kind of what kinds of courses would support your interests.
Gotcha. So if I can just build on, let's just kick it up for giggles. What if not only are you having a dual pathway, but you also have the plan of picking up the certificate of sports social work? Can you be placed in something that will also connect to that extra certificate?
You can list this as an interest on your application, but the more you try to combine your interests, the harder you are to place. And again, what we're trying to get you to do is to focus in on one practice area. You are not going to learn everything you want to learn about social work in the time you are in this program. I guarantee it. So you can let that goal go.
Let it go, let it go,
Yeah.
let it go.
Exactly. And just narrow in. There will be places where you can talk about your interests. There'll even be a little section where you can just write to us anything you want in the actual application. Like, I have a criminal background, or I really don't want to work with kids, or whatever the things are, right? Whatever your biggest worries are, we'll see that. And that won't go to the agency site. That'll just come to the field team. So you're welcome to tell us all those things, and we'll be thinking about that, right? Like, how do we combine those? But we don't want to get your hopes up that placement would exist, because there is no fairy tale placement that will teach you all the things. It doesn't exist.
And I want to reiterate that this is not about us saying we're not going to give it to you. It doesn't exist. We don't have it. So that doesn't mean you can't get your credential and your license and go out and create that when you leave here. But we have accreditation standards. And so all of our processing is in alignment with our standards and what's available. Any other questions before we shut it down?
I'm not sure if I missed this or if it's not available yet. Sorry, I have the hiccups. But I was wondering if we are able to access the, okay. Thanks, Rachel. Never mind, she got my question.
We're getting there. We need to go in and update it and get it all ready for y'all. So it doesn't make any sense for you to get in there now, because it will not help you.
Okay, and is that an email for us to look out for?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, if that's all, everyone, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been a treat and a pleasure. I look forward to getting to know you better and welcoming you to our school. And I think of you as my future colleagues. So I'm really excited to see what you bring the profession. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
You want to stop recording?